everybody, welcome to Take the Black Live, the one and only show on the internet for all things House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings, sci-fi, fantasy, movies, TV, etc. and so forth. I am Dan Selcke, the editor of Untitled. I'm here with Interim, the other editor of Untitled, and we are here to talk through some things that are various and sundry. And I will tell you off the top of the show, we are doing Sunday shows where we dedicate just the entire hour to House of the Dragon. And I'm glad to see you commenters are in it and liking it. Christine thinks House of the Dragon is amazing. I love to do much that I don't care anymore about the ROP. I'm glad you like House of the Dragon. But just to give you a little primer, our Sunday 9:30 p.m. CST shows are going to be all House of the Dragon, and these normal Wednesday at 4 p.m. shows, we'll talk about House of the Dragon. We're also going to do some other stuff going on in the general dork space. And hello, Julie. Hello, Saul. Good to see everybody here. And Daniel, good to see you too. How have you been since Sunday show?
I've been good. It's been so long, since that Sunday show when we saw House of the Dragon. So I'm holding up. I'm doing a bit better than most of the people in Westeros, I think. So I'll count that as a win.
Low bar.
How have you been holding up in this surreal week?
It is a little surreal to be back doing this. I mean, the last time that I was going this hard on Westeros stuff, it was 2019. The Bears had just won the pennant. The JFK was still fresh in our minds, and it was a different time, and the pandemic hadn't happened. And it was just, it's cool to be back in it. And so far, people really seem to be responding, because when we talked about it on Sunday, we watched it and we responded immediately with our thoughts, our incredible thoughts. Since then, we've got a chance to take the temperature of the room a bit, and people seem to really have enjoyed this premiere House of the Dragon episode. It got good marks across the board. It seemed like the critics liked it, and more importantly, the fans took to it. You can tell by how many memes kind of exploded around it. There was a lot of enthusiasm with people. It kind of is like, if you get people sharing and resharing funny little things, don't tell who?
Morbius. Don't tell Morbius that's the gauge. They'll put it back in theaters.
I mean, there are exceptions. There's one Matt Smith thing, another Matt Smith thing. It's got to be a confluence.
Oh, fair.
But I mean, you sensed it, right? That there was a just general positive vibe in the room. Folk were talking about theories. Folk were saying like, here's what it looked like Game of Thrones versus House of the Dragon. I definitely picked up a lot of a positive buzz for the show after that episode in the days to come, in the days afterward.
Yeah, I have too. I think most of the responses I've seen have been pretty positive. I think the main negative or uncertain ones I've seen are kind of the ones revolving around how brutal the scene with Emma Aaron was and what that portends for the show in terms of its treatment of women characters. That's kind of the biggest running criticism narrative that I've seen for the show since it premiered. And I think that's a fair one. It's also the literal point of the show. So I'll be curious to see how that conversation evolves, because that's what the show's literally about. But as a whole though, it's been a very positive response. Seems like everyone's happy to be back in Westeros. I know we are.
And I think it earned it. Like, I've seen that criticism too. And that's the old kind of a philosophical question, right? Like, is it appropriate to show violence when your show is about violence and you are critiquing it and trying to say something about it, or is showing it in and of itself some kind of endorsement of it? I would argue the first, but I get why someone would say the second. But so far, I thought it was justified. And of course, we've seen more of it, and we can't wait to talk about it more with you guys on Sundays. I see people are commenting. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it too. Julie really loved the connection between Rhaenyra and Arya. They definitely have. Rhaenyra is a strong-willed young woman, giving Arya meets Daenerys vibes. Christine. Christine is right. People did laugh about the cast. Shut Up cast is amazing. OMG. Especially Matt Smith. Folk laughed about Matt Smith a bunch, just like he seemed a little wrong. and I'm gonna say he's probably the breakout so far. I think he'll continue to do that. It helps that he's playing the character who is the kind of rabble rouser, troublemaker, charismatic guy when he's on screen.
Yeah, I think Millie Alcock and Patty Considine are going to give him a run for his money this season.
That's true.
I've been pleasantly impressed and surprised with Millie Alcock. I think she is really killing it as young Rhaenyra. I'm going to miss her when they age the characters up.
I love how you're phrasing that as if you don't already know what it's going to be like, because you, Daniel, has seen all 6 episodes. You've seen what happens when they get to the older versions. I have not. I'm still going to go up on that. We'll talk about all
and
that.
I stand by it. I'll miss them when that day comes again.
You do. Yes, you'll miss them again. You do miss them right now.
I'm glad.
Anyway, some things going up. It was a big success. It was watched by 10 million households across HBO and HBO Max, which is the biggest premiere in HBO's history. Twice the same day viewership of the Stranger Things season 4 premiere. They've got to be happy about that, obviously. Apparently,
that's like 5 times the viewership of the Game of Thrones, the original show's premiere. So that's right around the sweet spot in the middle of its run that I think they were hoping for.
I mean, this one did also cost, it had to be probably over 5 times what that one cost. There were some of those, like one of our big popular blow-ups were like a side-by-side of like that kind of rinky-dink tourney from season 1, where it was like on a dirt road, and then the giant Coliseum thing, which really did pound home. TV has changed like war, and we are living in a new era. Also, just a note, apparently the episode did crash for people, but mostly using Amazon Fire Sticks. I'm just going to say, conspiracy
afoot.
Conspiracy?
It's got, Amazon, totally.
Was Amazon
we should
just the show on purpose?
That's
because they have the Rings of Power coming out?
Yes, they were. I think so. Because it's more fun that way.
I like to just ask. It will add to the legend of it. What else we got going on here? Okay, if you're wondering, you might have been wondering about why the small council, whenever they go into their room, they put little marbles in dishes. Apparently, it's because they thought it was fun.
Yeah, pretty much. The set designers came up with it because they thought it was cool. And then Ryan Condal was like, you know what? That is pretty cool. We're going to keep that. It's kind of like the small councils punching in to work like modern day workers. It's a thing viewers can relate to. And it shows the formality of the time. There's one thing I love about the marbles that I noticed. So when they're not eating, the marbles sit on a big raised dish in the center of the table. And if you go back and watch, pretty much. If you go back and watch the small council scenes, there's one marble that's always on that dish because Damon doesn't come to the meetings usually. So his marble is just hanging out in the middle of the table. I thought that was fun.
It is kind of cute. I mean, sorry?
Sorry. No, I was going to carry on. What were you going to say?
Part of me wants to say that, like, look, there's like 5 of you in there. You don't need marbles. But I guess I can get behind the argument that it's like an earlier, more decadent time where ritual counts for more. I can go with that. Yeah. By the way, some great counts are coming in. Christine, I agree with Christine, who says in a few scenes, in a few minutes, you get who they were, those great characters, such nuance. I admire the good job the writers actually made in the first episode. It was so important to get everything quickly, and they really did succeed at that. Like, I got who those people were, I got what they wanted, and honestly, that's from a premiere. That's kind of all I want. Like, if I get who they are and what they want, I'm pretty much set. And the horrific botched C-section was just gravy, in a really inappropriate kind of gravy on top of it. That was more of a climactic moment. It definitely was direct, easy to understand, and that's so important. So good for them. Now I want them to kind of add some flair to it. Now I want them to start peacocking around.
Yeah, I was worried about how easy it would be to understand all these different dynamics, and I think they did a great job of getting them all across. I loved Damon eavesdropping on the small council.
Yo, that was cute.
I thought that was yeah, and King Viserys being like, he doesn't have the patience for the throne, and then you see Damon laugh, and it's like there are all these really great dynamics and things people wouldn't say when someone else is in the room. Yeah, they've just done a great job. And I see LCH Jeremy asking too, did the show confirm that the marbles are just decorative? Because those were used for voting back in the day. So I don't know about the ties to like voting methods, but they did confirm that it's something that the set designers thought of. They didn't talk about where they got the idea, but basically as a way of signaling, I'm here, I'm ready to start. I'm ready to give opinions basically on the small council. So yeah, I wonder if they'll explain more about the small council's little marbles. We'll find out in the days ahead.
I guess I'm curious about that too. I have a question for you, Daniel. So here's an interesting little filmic comparison for you to noodle over. What do you make of the idea that House of the Dragon is doing to Game of Thrones kind of what the Star Wars prequels did to the original Star Wars trilogy in setting this new one at a time of a bit of increased decadence, where things are a little more calm and peaceful and sterile, where everything's a bit cleaner, everything is just that. And then there's a pod racing or tourney on horse fast set piece to set everything off.
I hope that happens. Give us a dragon race. That'd be fun.
Or horse race. I remember one of those.
Yeah. I think that's an apt comparison. I think I've even heard Ryan Condal make that comparison because yes, and I think it's extremely spot on. Like, I don't know if it will change the perception of the original series in the way that the Star Wars prequels did for the original movies, because those are about the villain of the original movies. So they're more directly tied together, whereas this is hundreds of years earlier. But I think, we heard so much about the Targaryen dynasty, we never really got to see it. And now we're seeing it at what it was like at its best, basically, or at its best about to turn to its worst. So it's very similar to the Star Wars prequels in that way, because, you were always hearing about the Jedi. The Jedi were so great. They were beacons of light and justice in the galaxy. Things were generally better. And then you get to see what that looks like. And like you said, it's a more decadent time. It's a more pristine and clean time compared to the postmodern kind of used future of the original Star Wars movies. Yeah, and Game of Thrones did that too. In terms of seeing the dynasty's over, so now it's everyone that's left kind of scrabbling at each other's throats for what power they can seize. So yeah, I think that's a good comparison.
I do too. I mean, of course, when a lot of folks think of Star Wars prequels, they think one of the first big backlashes to a piece of media, like maybe the backlash that all future backlashes were based on. And so far, none of that. So I'm hoping that maybe it's the dream of the Star Wars prequels realized in House of the Dragon in a way. I'll go with that.
Yeah, I hope so. Jay's got an interesting question here. I'm going to pitch this one your way. What did you think of the Song of Ice and Fire dream scene? So when Viserys is telling Rhaenyra, we have this kingly, queenly burden. He says he thought it was a bit cringy with the up close on the dagger. What are your thoughts?
I didn't think it was cringy. I get what they're doing. I do get what you're saying, Jay, about the up close on the dagger, and just like, it's hard for a character to say his was a song of ice and fire for me to not go, oh, you said the name, what would he do for you? And feel a bit of taken out, but I get it. I get what they're trying to do. And it just depends on whether they actually use that information in a way that actually motivates the characters or not. Because if it's there to toss you a little winky bone, that slam's kind of cringy. But if that information becomes important and influences folk in a psychological way, I'm down with it. I get it. It wasn't my favorite part of the episode, but I got it, and I was okay with it.
Yeah, I felt the same. Man, it's hard to talk about this because I have seen ahead.
Why? Why is it? Why is that, Daniel?
Say the things you are cringing about, I'd be curious to see, Jay, if you still feel that way after you see a few more episodes. That's all I'll say. I like that scene more now that I've seen it a few times and seen later episodes. So
Daniel has all the secrets.
I do. I have the secret tea. I think that is a daring thing for them to do, to bring in the Song of Ice and Fire that way and kind of try to define what the Song of Ice and Fire is, because that's not something we've ever really seen in the books, where George was like, this is where the title comes from. We've gotten a few mentions of it, you know, Rhaegar in that one vision that Dany has in the House of the Undying, looking at his son and saying he is the prince who was promised, his will be the Song of Ice and Fire. That's kind of the closest thing we've gotten to
Rhaegar knew, because Rhaegar knew about this. He found it.
And yeah, which is a curious question. Did he know about this dream?
Oh yeah.
That's the kind of stuff I can't wait to fully confirmed. You know, George R.R. Martin has it in a notebook somewhere. I'm curious to see what they do with that for sure.
I mean, again, if this goes well, we might we might get Duncan Egg show and learn it. I bet, you know, that we would have had it confirmed if George R. R. Martin had his way, because he said in an interview this week that if he had had his way, that I was saying that Game of Thrones needs to be 10 seasons at least, and maybe 12, 13. I lost that fight. And he said that he has more influence in House of the Dragon than he does in Game of Thrones. Basically saying that if he had up to him, he would have made it 10, 12, 13 seasons, which I have no doubt is true, because we're talking about a man who has filled just these giant door-stopping books full of so much detail that might be too much at times. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all he wanted to go 12, 13 seasons. Personally, not really so much into that, but TV is a compromise. Life is a compromise.
Yeah.
You want
like
this many,
TV are compromises.
Exactly. You want this much TV, and then the producers are like, well, Maisie Williams would be like 30 by then and can't play a 14-year-old, so we'll give you this much. And you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I did not want 10 seasons of Game of Thrones. Maybe 9 or like 8.5.
I could have gotten behind 9. I would have been curious to see what they did with 10. I think they would have run into danger of wearing out their welcome at that point. But I think I would have loved to have seen a little more. So like full seasons for 7 and 8, maybe, and then maybe a 9.
Yeah.
Because
that's what I wanted.
There was another interesting thing in that interview. I think it was that interview that quote's from, where he talked about how he met with David Benioff and Dan Weiss about the future of the Song of Ice and Fire and his ideas and where things are going. And he said, we only had a few days, so I didn't really get to tell them everything. That's basically what he said. And I was like, how does that, that's not something I've ever seen him say before, that like, I would have maybe told them more if we had taken more time. So yeah, I'm so curious. What are the things he didn't tell them that he already knew at that point? You know, were things like this Aegon Song of Ice and Fire dream one of them, or is that something that this new show is really running with? Because we know Targaryens were dreamers. Some of them did have prophetic dreams. So there's a lot of gray area here where we don't quite know what's what. But yeah, I think we can all agree 13 seasons of Game of Thrones would have probably been too much.
It is a curious, just there's never been something like this, where this property has been adapted in this way, where it's still being written and it's still being adapted to this day, right now, and changing and morphing and finding out new things in new ways. It's just, it's a fascinating lesson adaptation. Someone created a thesis on this. I also like Christine's comment, Christine bringing it. The prophecy changes our point of view about the struggles for the Iron Throne. It is not only the struggle for selfish power. They feel invested in a great mission, which I agree. But Christine, let's keep in mind that when you feel invested in a great mission and have kind of a zealotous zeal for something bigger than yourself, it can lead you, I think, to think that the little people and the details don't really matter, and you can end up doing something because you feel you must, and you are kind of sacredly blessed to do it. It takes you to a very dark, horrible place. Because there's no one more dangerous than a true believer. Yes. Beware true believers. Okay, before we move on from the House of the Dragon stuff, I have one more thing I wanted to hit, and that was exactly that Ryan Condal's show on House of the Dragon is talking about. We touched on it earlier, sort of the potential future of the Game of Thrones cinematic universe, which may or may not come to fruition after this show. We'll see how House of the Dragon does. It's been one episode, so not going ahead of ourselves. But he's basically saying, as a fan, I think the world of Westeros universe is just as rich as the Marvel universe or the Star Wars universe. I think there are plenty of stories left to tell, but we're at the very beginning, whereas Marvel and Star Wars have decades of content and characters built up over time. It's our job to establish that interest and explore the world a little more and get people intrigued to ask, where else can you go with this world? And then a producer said that we're not trying to set up any spinoff with House of the Dragon. And just, I'm torn as I ever am between my reflexive distaste for torn. It is worn ragged. Between my reflexive distaste for pretty much this kind of new age of sprawling corporate shared universes where it can't be special and it can't be as good as possible because it has to get you on to the next thing. I think we're seeing that with Marvel a lot now, especially now where everything just doesn't feel as cool or interesting. And
Star Wars.
I mean, my desire to see good stories told, especially good stories in the fantasy space. So far, they've done a good job of keeping it subtle, or at least not exploding all over us and not giving us way too much. And I just hope they keep going in that direction.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm not really, I have the same reflexive reaction of like, oh no, not another cinematic universe, because you hear, so everyone is trying to do this because it's been so successful for Marvel, and Marvel did it in a very specific way that worked for comic stories that they were interweaving, and they had all this experience with that for a while. Yeah, for a while. And now it's getting kind of overburdened because they're flooding us with content. Star Wars is trying to do it with questionable success, I think. I don't know what a GOTCU, I don't know. It hurts me even to say that.
You said it.
I said it. I do think it's funny though, because that producer, and I think she's one of the writers on the show as well, Sarah Hess, said we weren't consciously trying to launch the new Westeros universe. We didn't seed anything in this show for other series, but the season premiere did kind of very subtly set up one of their other spin-offs, which is Nymeria. They have a spin-off in development for 10,000 Ships, which is about Nymeria's journey from the River Rhoyne, where she goes to Sithorios and eventually ends up in Westeros. They talked about that, and it was small enough that it's not like, look at you guys getting us set up for the next show. It wasn't like that at all, but it was the most detailed little accounting of Nymeria's journey that it's like 4 sentences, but it's the most detailed we've gotten on the Game of Thrones like cinematic universe yet. So whether they mean to or not, they are seeding in some things, and I don't hate it.
I'm glad you said that, because I have a counterpoint and disagree with you. I thought about this earlier. I mean,
with it,
does intention matter? Because look, like Shireen, before she got burned to death by her own dad, talked about the Dance of Dragons. Like, she gave a whole little accounting of like, this war happened, and it was really bad. The Targaryens never recovered. Yep. Like, are we saying they were seeding something back then? I would guess no. I would guess they were just kind of using it to illustrate a bit.
Yeah. And I think they did the same with Nymeria.
You don't have to like see daggers in every shadow, Daniel. Like, not everything is a seed. Not everything is trying to get you.
I'm sorry. I've been living in the Marvel, in today's television landscape with Marvel and Star Wars. My brain is trained to think this way. It's not me, it's the times.
Keep it out of my Game of Thrones. But
Yeah,
I mean,
fair.
also,
I don't think they're trying to set it
but
up.
also possibly. I mean, like fully. I have no idea. But I'm just saying,
But
just because it's
also-
there doesn't mean it's like a setup.
Yeah, I don't think it's a setup, but when they release that 10,000 ships show, they're going to be giving you the wink there, and people are going to share memes of Rhaenyra and say, "Oh, 10,000 ships,"
Yes.
and it will look different.
Memes will definitely be shared. All right. And by the way, before we move on, Jay, I agree with you on YouTube saying he thinks that because of the Civil War, the knowledge of the Song of Ice and Fire was lost, and never told Aegon III about it. I agree with you. And I think it was rediscovered at some point. And we might see that if like a Dunk and Egg show, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's pivot. Sorry,
I'm
go ahead.
so curious about that. I'm
I bet
just
it is.
so curious about that. I have theories. I can't wait until we see more of the show so we can start really deep diving that idea.
And thanks, Christine. And Christine, you're fine. I get you. As Nicole says, I'm fine multiple storylines within the Game of Thrones universe, but I don't need them all to connect. Yes, or build upon each other. Yes, I agree with that too. I just want this show to be good. I want to focus on it. I don't want anything else. Not for a while. That's what I want. And we'll see if I get it as we go on. Let's pivot a bit to House of the Dragon's main rival. So House of the Dragon's come out. It is at least based on the first episode a hit. People really seem to like it. We'll see if that continues. And it's strange because Amazon is releasing the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, this big new Lord of the Rings show in literally, I mean, is it a week and a half now? Yeah, it's like a little over a week, next Friday. And they are fighting to get heard. They are fighting to get seen. And I feel a little bad for them because they spent so much money on it. And it doesn't seem to be, I mean, again, Jeff Bezos reached under his car seat and pulled out a couple $2 billion and spent it. Is it just me, or does hype for that show not seem to be breaking through? Because I see them like having all these magazine covers, and they released a trailer we're going to watch in a second, but I don't feel like people are really amped about this the way they were and now are about House of the Dragon.
Yeah, well, I think it's tricky. I totally agree with you. I think the main reaction that I have heard, seen pretty much everywhere is some variation of I'm cautiously interested in this show. I want to see if it will be a horrible train wreck, or I hope it's not awful and maybe it will be good. I haven't seen anyone really being like, this looks amazing, I can't wait. I think visually it looks stunning, but they've kind of leaned on that because you're right. There are lots of magazine covers. There's this new trailer, which they happened to release like 2 days after the House of the Dragon premiere. After Jeff Bezos crashed the Fire Sticks, he put out a new trailer.
So Jeff Bezos went down to the server bay personally in the Amazon basement and was yanking wires out of walls, making sure it did not work on Sunday night. Yeah.
That's right. It's like that scene at the end of Free Guy where Taika Waititi's going through the server room with an axe. It was like that. So I think part of the problem, for me at least, because I keep wanting to get more hyped about this show, just like on premise, like it's new Lord of the Rings. I'm intrigued. I hope it's not bad. Sure. But every time, they're not really telling us anything about this show. Like, it's in the Second Age. You should get excited about that. We're going to see a different era of this world. But like House of the Dragon's trailers, basically, if you go back and watch them, they pretty much tell you the story of the season in the trailer. It's like, here are these characters. She's going to be the heir. There's going to be a war for succession. Knives are going to come out. She's going to be contested. Like, they basically lay out what the plot of the season is in subtle ways. And I think Rings of Power, if it's doing that, it's too subtle, because I have no idea what, like, presumably it's going to be darkness rising in the land again, and eventually Sauron going and taking a vacation on Numenor and being a really bad house guest. But it's going to be 5 seasons, I think, that show. So who knows when we'll even get there? Like, what is the plot of season 1? I couldn't tell you. So yeah, I don't know. Man.
That's a
I'm
really good
nervous.
point. I hadn't thought about it, but that's a great segue. Why don't we watch the new trailer released the other day and see if we can see what you're talking about?
Yeah.
All right, here it goes. The Rings of
All
Power.
right.
Giant, expensive, amazing television show. Look at all those people. Look at all those moshers.
So
They're
this
just
is
like going over there.
Wrath.
Probably, yeah.
Can we pause for a second?
The War
Can we
of Wrath,
pause
a
on
big deal
that we
in
got?
Lord of the Rings mythology. That's kind of cool. I could get into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, totally. Me too. And so I'm pretty sure this seems to be the way the trailer is laying this out. So hey, maybe they're telling us a little bit of the story. That maybe that's Galadriel's brother, because there's a corpse in the next scene where she's standing over her brother's corpse and it looks kind of like this dude. So maybe it's going to start showing us the War of Wrath and her brother dying in brutal orcish death.
I'm sure she had a brother. I don't remember.
Maladriel. We want to let's carry on.
Okay. Maladriel.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I have to read the Silmarillion before this.
But I mean, like,
show
I'm sure
airs.
it's pretty even. Okay. So again, you're right. It's very nice. Okay. But I mean, you're right. It's very grand and epic, which it looks like. I love that shot of Numenor. Galadriel looking kind of cosplayable in her elf armor. It's nice.
That's right.
I mean, okay, just pause it on the swoopy little fluttery petal falling around the guy with the beard, but not the tiny guy with the beard.
That guy.
I mean, you're right. It looks so good. So that's Numenor. It's the island nation of Numenor, where the long-lived race of supermen live. What's that?
They built a lot of this set. There's a lot of practical stuff on the Numenor set, kind of like Hobbiton for the shot.
Right.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful. And I'd like to live there. But I guess you're right. I never thought of it like that, but I think you're right. I guess I don't really. It's a guy with a beard, and I don't know who he is or what he wants. Whereas in the House Dragon trailers, this is a good insight, Daniel. They were kind of pointing out she's the heir, folk can test it, and that's the problem. Okay, continue. Yeah. But I do like the way it looks.
Yeah,
so soft.
I feel like that's the consensus.
We got some dwarves.
It looks real good. Yeah,
we got a dwarf. We got another bearded man, different bearded man. He's in a ship or something. I don't know what they're saying. Oh, look, we have hobbits playing in the rivers. And we have.
Oh, can we pause on that white hooded person? The person with the white hood. So that's the person everyone thought was Sauron, is this actor right here. It's not Sauron or Eminem.
It kind of looks like Sinead O'Connor from this angle.
Yeah, but she still looks like she's up to no good. So presumably connected to Sauron in some way.
I like her staff.
Clearly. Yeah, staff's
like a little cage. But yeah, work, lady. Get your life. Okay, continue. Oh my God, you said work. Beautiful rivers. Oh, then we have our Comet Man. What the hell are those?
The wargs are pretty cool.
Beautiful shots of people standing in lovely rooms, which I do enjoy. And it looks like, I will say, you know what's kind of cool? I'll find a good place to pause on, and then I'll give my little spiel. Not that, it's a boat. I know what a boat looks like. No, keep going. No, that's fine. Galadriel's talking. That's a dwarf and the dwarf couple. There we go. That's pretty. Pause on that. How pretty. You know what's interesting about the House of the Dragon versus Lord of the Rings comparison is that.
Tell me.
The Rings of Power seems to be kind of going for what Game of Thrones was in terms of huge sprawl, characters everywhere, all over the map. You know, we're seeing people on Numenor, and we're seeing Galadriel and the elves, and we're seeing the hobbits scampered around in their little dresses in the rivers and such, and the grasslands. And you know, we're seeing the Sinead O'Connor Eminem person who's going to be Wicked, like all these kind of disparate stories, which is sort of what Game of Thrones did so well, and I can pick up on it. But then the actual Game of Thrones follow-up is much more focused on one family in one place. And then this kind of post-Game of Thrones show is doing the Game of Thrones thing. And maybe it's passé by this point. We'll see.
Yeah. I think, man, I don't know if it's passé. I'm biased because that's like my favorite type of fantasy story, is the kind of characters all over the map and seeing how they'll crisscross. I think the thing that concerns me is that Lord of the Rings, you know, Tolkien's work isn't really that.
That's true.
Like The Hobbit is again, it's a very focused book. It's just Bilbo.
Right.
Lord of the Rings is a lot more focused. We've got people around the map, but it's not like Game of Thrones where you're hopping POVs you're not hopping around. It's like segments, and then the movies kind of slice them together more. But you're so familiar with the characters by that point. This seems to have a sprawl of seemingly rando characters all over the place with no real. Not all randos. Like Galadriel, we know. Elrond, we know.
Elrond, and you know, we know some of the Numenorian guys, at least from the old books. Yeah. We know Isildur.
Yep, Arthur is on, and we've got Harfoots, we've got a Comet Man. It just seems like there's
dwarves.
There are a lot of plot threads going on, and that makes me wonder. Again, just what the actual story is, because it seems, from what we've seen, like just a ton of little stories, and I'm not sure how they're all going to matter to each other aside from maybe the philosophical evil rising in the land.
Here's a challenge for everybody watching. We're watching this trailer. What do you think the story is based on this trailer? Leave your comments below. Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Waterfalls. We got waterfalls down rocks. I kept looking for a good thing to say.
Nice.
It's a lot of landscapes. Damn, they're really going for that. I like that guy's beard. I think it's neat.
Yeah.
We have pretty Rivendell, we have pretty Galadriel, we've got just in the wind going like, ooh. Great poster hair. Gotta love that. Yeah, I mean, the crowd work is great. Oh, I like the elves at dinner. So okay, pause on the little tiny Harfoot giving the apple to the mysterious bearded man. I mean, I am intrigued by this because it's so I know Lord of the Rings lore pretty well. We've talked about this. I mean, we never really talked with the Harfoots or the Hobbits in the Second Age, but I know Numenor, I know Elrond, and I know Galadriel, and I know Sauron. Even like the dwarves are like going to be in Moria at its height. Like that's all in the book. A man who crashes to Middle Earth in a comet and befriends a hobbit. That's new. That's something I do not know. So I am kind of intrigued by that.
Their hearts are bigger than their feet, so they're good at making friends. Is what I hear.
That line. I'll give it a pass.
Yeah, we can let that one ride. So I think it might have been you that told me you heard this fan theory that maybe this guy's Tom Bombadil. This person who crashed down to the sky. Well, yeah, it probably is. They wouldn't be that that
I don't know what the word for that is.
I was like, is that hubris? I don't know what that is if you're going to retcon an origin story for Tom Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil's been there since before, like way longer than that.
There you go. You know the Lord of the Rings.
He's Eru. But I am intrigued. But okay, continue.
Yeah.
What else we got in here? And remember, what is the story the way you see it? She gave him an apple. That's a story right there. Hots are bigger than a feet. That looks great. What is that supposed to be? Some kind of like sea dragon? I don't really know that.
I don't know, but I like it.
Mist on the hill. Can't beat it. I mean, hills are pretty. Rivers are pretty. I'm not denying this. What's that? Oh, Misty Mountains, very possible.
Misty Mountains, maybe.
We got beaches. Don't forget beaches. That's a landscape too. We got trolls. We got Galadriel running. We got another bigger troll. Ooh, snowy mountains. We got misty mountains and snowy mountains. We got Galadriel climbing mountains. Will she climb the other kind? We don't know yet. We're gonna find out. We got young Ned Stark being
Elrond saying, why you gotta climb so many mountains?
And then we have this kind of matrixy shot. Yeah, I agree. It's just not exciting me hugely. And I am curious, though, to see what they do with it. And I'll be watching. And Amazon, if you're watching, we will guarantee you a good review if you give us screeners.
Or something like that. Yes.
Hey, Jeff.
Well, hi, Jeff. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Of course we're both going to watch this thing. Like, you can't not watch it. It's going to be one of the biggest fantasy shows of the year. That's not to say it will be one of the best, because it's just too early to tell.
Does the Sandman and House of the Dragon don't already come out?
The competition's fierce right now. The Sandman's great. I still have 2 episodes left. I'm so psyched for The Dream of a Thousand Cats.
Yeah,
can I ask you, what did you think of the song in this trailer? We couldn't really hear it. Okay, that's fair. It's like, so something that baffles me with this show, with all of its marketing about how grand and glorious it is, it's the Lord of the Rings. So they have Bear McCreary doing the music.
Who you
one
love.
of the best composers, whom I love for good reason. Lots of people love him. It's not just me. He did Outlander. He did Battlestar Galactica. He's done so many amazing projects. Black Sail. I wasn't going to say it this time. They chose some random pop song for this. I feel like they're totally not. They're underselling the fact that they have one of the best composers in Hollywood working on this show. They've mentioned it like once. And I feel his music is gonna elevate. Like it at least moves up a half letter grade just because he's doing the music.
Cool.
That's how good he is at what he does. But yeah, they're making choices, man. I'm skeptical, but I hope it's okay.
I mean, like Game of Thrones had pop songs in its trailer. It had like those dirge-like covers, remember, of like I don't want to fall in love. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah,
more or less.
I didn't like.
I love Nicole's comment.
Oh,
I thought that was kind of fun. Actually, I kind of liked them. As Nicole comment, Bear Flare, love that. Should make that a thing.
Yeah.
Hashtag that, spread it around. Excellent.
I'm telling you, it's not just me. And he did The Walking Dead too. Terry's right.
Guy gets around. There are like composers. They like Hollywood like chooses 10 and they just cycle them always. Like John Williams, Bear McCreary, Ramin Djawadi is now kind of part of that little crew with Westworld, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, and everything like that. There's like an upper echelon of the TV composers.
There is.
So I guess
I hope Sarah Schachner gets in there now. She did Prey. She did Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm crossing my fingers for her. She deserves it. She does good work.
You go, Sarah. So I guess as far as Rings of Power is concerned, it sounds like we're in a kind of a rough agreement that hey Sandra, we will later.
Nice to see you too, Sandra.
It kind of sounds like we're interested and we're going to watch it, but there's something that is keeping me from getting fully amped about it. And maybe it'll all clear up when I actually see it. And I'm looking forward to doing that and seeing what it's like.
Yeah. Oh, so Martha right here saying, I was hoping for a new intro song for House of the Dragon. There is going to be an intro starting this week. So they kept it back from the premiere because they felt like it would be overkill to do a prologue and then an intro and then get us into the show. I'm curious what it sounds like. I've not heard it. So we'll all find out together.
I'm curious too. Yeah, on Sunday, we will know when you know what the intro song is like. I hope it's okay. Yeah, I'm curious about that. Beyond that, Daniel, anything else you're watching when you're not watching House of the Dragon?
I mean, I've watched the House of the Dragon premiere like 4 times. So who has time to watch other things? No, but I've been watching She-Hulk. I have enjoyed the 1 episode I think I've seen of that quite a lot. It's Marvel, but I think it's really fun. I'm partial to the Hulk anyway, and I think they're playing up the comedy really well, as well as doing some great commentary. One of the first times Jen Walters hulks out is when dudes are catcalling her, and there's kind of some commentary on that type of female experience quite a lot in the show, which is refreshing to see kind of tackled so head on. So I'm liking it a lot. You've seen the premiere too, right?
I did. And by the way, everyone out there, let us know what you're watching. And if you watched this, let us know what you thought of it. I did. I thought it was, and I'll be honest, like I watched it while fully like doing dishes and folding laundry and that kind of thing. But I watched it. I put it on.
Okay.
I mean, look, what am I going to say? I didn't laugh once. I thought it was competent. It pulled me along. I thought it was a little obvious in terms of I'm not gonna go give this a genius grant for insights into feminism. It seemed a little surface to me, and I didn't really laugh, so I thought it was fine. It was fine.
Okay, that's fair. Man, I laughed so much, but that's fair. We all have our own things.
What made you laugh? Can I ask?
Times.
Was it like one joke that hit you?
No, I laughed throughout it. I laughed quite a lot. I can't remember specific things. I think so. She-Hulk, I will just say this for it, because all of the Marvel shows are a little different, and I have super Marvel burnout. She-Hulk is the first time I have rewatched an episode of a Marvel show since, I want to say, Loki, maybe.
Yeah,
was the last time I rewatched an episode of one. So that kind of says something. Like the last time I had the urge to even rewatch an episode of one. So that nice. Says something, at least in terms of my enjoyment. But everyone's going to feel differently about these Marvel shows.
I will. Okay, actually, I know my favorite bit. My favorite bit that I did crack a smile at was when Jamila Jamil, who plays Titania, whatever. Jamila Jamil from The Good Place came in and did like a flying kick across the courtroom, and you could tell she was on kind of wires. So it was kind of like tilted. I thought that was cute.
Yeah. I hope.
And
we
that was
see
about
more
as fun as it got
next
for me. Okay. Like, I don't know. Like,
I thought it was hilarious.
America, and then bleeps it out. Like, come on.
Okay. There were just a lot of little things. Like, I love when she starts getting angry when she's in the basement of Bruce's little bungalow. She starts getting mad and he gives her pancakes. Yeah. It's like she's getting hangry. There were just lots of little things like that I enjoyed. But yeah, it's fair. Different strokes.
Different strokes. I really got to enjoy it. I'll keep watching because I'm curious. As Terry says, she was great in Orphan Black. And I like Christine's comment, and Nicole agrees with me, didn't love it that much. Although I didn't hate it. I thought it was cool. I'll keep watching. Christine has a good comment that I kind of agree with, just speaking of Marvel and Star Wars and stuff. She says that Andor seems better than Boba and Obi-Wan, Andor being a new Star Wars show coming up.
Yeah.
I do find myself weirdly liking what they've shown off so far, which I did not think would happen. How about you, Daniel? Are you like looking at Andor and being intrigued, or just underwhelmed, or what?
I mean, I still think the idea Andor is a show where I was like, I think the premise of we're going to do a whole show about this character Andor, that's a hard sell for me. But at the same time, I think, so this is the same person who did Rogue One is doing Andor. And I think there's just a unity of the vision to this thing that, like, Boba Fett felt like it was really there just to service the Mandalorian. Yes, pretty much. And because Disney knows Boba Fett's one of like the, silver bullets in Lucasfilms. Yeah, like you can always sell more Boba Fett toys, basically. Yes, it doesn't matter how much time has gone by. And Obi-Wan, I wanted to like so bad, and I like things about it, but I think generally it was not as tight of a show as I was hoping it would be. Andor seems like it could be the opposite. Like Obi-Wan had a great premise that they're bringing back Obi-Wan and fleshing out his, dark years on Tatooine. But the concept was good, but the execution left something to be desired. I feel like Andor is almost the opposite, where it's like, I could care less about Cassian Andor, but it looks like the vision and the folks behind this thing is so well done that it might end up being pretty good. I have a feeling Andor is going to be the surprise Star Wars MVP of the year, honestly.
It's making me really curious. Maybe we can argue that because the idea is so lame, he must have had the greatest premise and pitch in the world to actually get it made. But I mean, that doesn't really hold up. Disney seems to just make anything Star Wars. Yeah, like they're doing 2 seasons. They're doing
because they're going all in. Yeah, they're doing multiple seasons, 12 episodes.
Yeah, Anyway, I'm also watching Better Call Saul, finishing that up, and I started up Abbott Elementary, that sitcom about the elementary school, which is quite charming and nice. Anything else, Daniel, you want to say we were watching before we move on to our final segment?
I don't know that I've really, aside from that, The Sandman is the other thing I've been watching. Watch The Sandman if you haven't. Give Netflix more reasons to make another season. I've been loving it. Episode 6 is still my favorite, I think.
Oh yeah, it is. It's the best one.
Episode 6, there's something to be said for The Sandman, because as sweeping and huge as some of the episodes and stories are, it also has standalone episodes, which is something I know they did in the comics, but not many shows do that anymore, especially in this episodic space where it's like you're either very episodic, like the Orville, like every episode is its own contained thing, or you're the total opposite of that and it's a long-running narrative like Game of Thrones. And it's interesting to me that The Sandman is in the middle. So it's got running narratives, but then it's got things like episode 6 where it's like, that's just a beautiful hour of television. Like I'd show it to an old person and be like, watch this hour of television. It's beautiful and you'll appreciate it. And you don't need to know anything about this show.
You'd show the one where death goes around telling old people their lives are over to the old person.
She tells one old person and then younger people. But yeah, because it's a human experience thing, right? Like that's what makes it so beautiful. Everyone can relate to the things that are happening in that episode because death is a relevant thing for all people, except the ones who live in Numenor who can't accept it. So yeah,
yes,
I think The Sandman's great. But that's it. That's what I've been watching.
I feel like if I were an old person, I'd be like, what are you trying to say? Like, I'm vital. I still know what's about me. You're already in the will. Like, you can back off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to put it on and then slowly like pass over a violin when they're not paying attention and tell them it's time to start playing. But the point I was trying to make with that is just, it's something that would appeal to people who might not be into a show like Sandman in the first place, because the concepts of that episode are broad and accessible in a way that a lot of the rest of the show is not quite as accessible.
Kind of arcane and more Byzantine, It was a beautiful hour of TV. I liked it a lot. I think
that's just fascinating to me because not many shows could pull that off.
And if it comes back, you can expect more of that good stuff. The Sandman is so far my favorite thing I've seen this year. Although you've seen the Orville, I haven't watched the Orville Horizons. Although I am watching the Orville and I am liking it. The first season, I'm still on it, so we'll see how that goes. All right, Daniel, shall we play a round of the WiC News Lightning Round?
Let's do it. Right. I think it's time for the world famous Lightning Round.
This is the game where we go over news stories we didn't have enough time to kind of fit into the main show and give our 20-second takes. And we're going to try and do it pretty effectively. We're coming up on time here. I did not organize these at all. So we're just going to go into it and see what happens.
All right.
Oh, ask me this one first.
Let me ask you this first one. Yeah. So Netflix released, because you broke this news and put them on the spot, they released a whole new episode of The Sandman early.
They did. So Netflix fully released an 11th episode of The Sandman last Friday because they accidentally leaked part of it, and I was on it. That part's not true. It wasn't because of me. But yeah, it's just really cool. That's very rare. They made a whole extra episode, and then they held it back for like 2 weeks, and then they released it, and it was just fun to see another Sandman. I really liked it, and that was just really cool of them. Yeah. So that was fun. I hope it comes back.
Totally.
Please come back. All right, Daniel. Netflix is overhauling its Witcher prequel Blood Origin. They're cutting it from 6 episodes to 4, and they're including more Jaskier the Bard.
Yeah, so talk about cinematic universes going awry. They're cutting The Witcher Blood Origin from 6 episodes to 4, reportedly because there was some weak material in the middle of the show. That's what's being reported. They're including more Jaskier, which would be a framing story because this is a prequel set thousands of years earlier. We'll have to see on this one. The tea leaves aren't looking great.
It's an odd one. All right.
Yeah, it's coming out this year too, at some point.
I mean, that's what they say. We'll see.
That's it's true. All right. So this is another really cool one. I shouted when this happened during the House of the Dragon premiere. So HBO revealed its first real footage from HBO's The Last of Us, based on the popular video game series.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a quick clip. Like, that's just, Pedro Pascal glowering. It's barely. The Last of Us, very popular video game, zombie stuff. HBO making it could be very, very cool because it's a great story, and HBO will apply that level of polish to it. I'm looking forward to it. Pedro Pascal's great. Bella Ramsey's great as Joel and Ellie. I will watch it. I like it. Bring it on. Perfect. Love it when it works out.
Nice.
Okay.
Flawless victory.
I will ask this next one because I think you know it, and I think I know the other one better. Daniel, a proposed reboot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, proposed by Joss Whedon, is on pause, which probably means it's not going to happen.
Did I just break up?
I think you did. Shall I repeat myself?
That's convenient. I don't know anything about this one. No, that's fine. The Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot is on pause. That was it, right?
That's it.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know the tea for this one. So I will just say they're making a Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot. That sounds like a weird choice to me. And apparently now it's on pause. And that means it's likely not coming back because usually pause is code for it's in development hell. We'll see if anything changes, but it's kind of safest to assume it's dead or otherwise.
For the best.
Yeah. Okay, so you want me to ask you about some dragons and some dungeons, right?
On this show? I guess, sure.
Maybe. Okay, so 1D&D is the next phase of Dungeons and Dragons. It's a new thing that is being put out by Wizards of the Coast. And what is it?
I mean, I don't even know. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons is a very popular role-playing game, blew up during the pandemic a lot. And, they release these new editions every so often, and they're going to do one that makes it a lot easier to play digitally, like what we're doing during the pandemic. This is like a basically 40-year-old institution by this point. It's cool that they're doing it, so they're still evolving it. Good for Wizards of the Coast, good for Dungeons and Dragons. Long may it reign. Okay. Daniel, I can't think of a good word. Oh, here's some other fun stuff. HBO Max gets rid of more animated shows, including a high-profile Batman series called Batman Caped Crusader. Although that one is just being kicked off HBO Max, it will still air on like Cartoon Network or something.
Yeah, so HBO Max, the new CEO, David Zaslav, is just on a crusade against capes, getting rid of things all over the place. The Batman thing is really shocking because it was a follow-up to Batman the Animated Series, which is like one of the biggest gold standard animated superhero shows. It had the original creator, Matt Reeves, and J.J. Abrams attached, and they were just like, no big. Thanks.
It's weird over there.
Weird choices at HBO. This isn't lightning round, but did you see that they lost like a ton of, they lost like billions of market capital, I guess, this week?
I did see that, yeah. I mean, that's shocking, right? I mean, they've been horrible press. And the stock market's just like a barometer of the feelings of very rich hedge fund managers, so it doesn't really mean anything. So I'm not surprised they could be swayed by bad news like this. But I mean, like, I don't trust that stuff. Stock markets go up like one day and down the next day. It's based on the dumbest stuff. So they lost a lot, but who knows what it'll be in like 3 minutes. Daniel, did you get all that beautiful thing I said?
I think so. I chopped up. It's getting dark over here, like Numenor going into the sea again.
Okay, intense.
All right. Let's keep going with the lightning round because I definitely missed some of those insights. I'm a little sad about it.
They were so good.
Okay. So Disney Plus is making a live action King Kong series. How excited are you?
Not very. I mean, kind of curious because I thought King Kong was like a universal thing. So Disney
It
Plus is gonna have
is.
like a King Kong TV show about like his origin story on Skull Island. I don't really care about King Kong generally, but just I'm more interested. I mean, it could be good in just the rights diffusal. So apparently they're allowed to do that, but Universal has
Yeah,
these monster things going on at the same time, and Apple TV Plus is going to have a series about kaiju's. I don't know how it's happening, what's going on. And finally, the last
yeah,
thing of the day,
me neither.
Daniel, Telltale Games, people behind the the Game of Thrones games, Walking Dead games, is making a video game series based on The Expanse, the popular sci-fi show that you like.
I do indeed. And I think that's exciting. It seems like a great fit for Telltale Games style, which is really narrative driven, forcing players to make choices about who to murder and other difficult things. The game will be exploring the early years of Kamina Drummer, and the actor Kara G, who played her on the show, came back to voice her for the game. So I think that's fun. I'm curious. I might give it a shot when it comes out.
Nice. Those games are kind of interesting. I never really played a Telltale game, but I was always intrigued by like the kind of branching story stuff they do. I guess I'll give it a shot. All right.
I
But
played
we'll talk about
one of
sorry, go
the
ahead.
early Game of Thrones ones. I played one of the early Game of Thrones ones, and it was fun. I think they've gotten better though at what they do
Nice.
since then.
Yeah. We'll talk about it more next week because we are here every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Winners Coming Facebook page and the Winners Coming YouTube page to talk all things fantasy, sci-fi, movies, television. And we're doing special House of the Dragon after shows after every new episode of House of the Dragon. We're going to break it down in detail for you at 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, right at the same places, the WiC Facebook page, the WiC YouTube page. We're also on TikTok, the WiC Talk, if you will, if you want to go subscribe to us there. I mean, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're everywhere. And we're also available in podcast form, this podcast, wherever podcasts are downloadable, whether it be Google Play, iTunes, or anywhere else. So thanks for watching. See you again soon, either on Sunday, Wednesday, or both. And just a reminder, Jeff Bezos, if you're watching, we will give your show a perfect 10 if you just give us screeners to Lord of the Rings of Power. Thank you and good night.